Now, as we mentioned earlier, it is now down to the 6 judges here at the Supreme Court to make the final verdict. The proceedings have ended in the last few minutes with spirited arguments from lawyers on both sides of the petition. Fred Ngatia, appearing for Uhuru Kenyatta, rounded off the respondents' arguments that the March 4th election was free and fair. He dismissed court's allegations as narrow and sensational. Raila Odinga's lawyer, George Oraro, too, had his response as the proceedings came to an end. Here now are some of the closing statements given just a short while ago.
My lords, we do not want to keep you too long on those videos. The point is, my lords, it is beyond argument that on the procurement of BVR, the petitioner was squarely involved. As a matter of fact, one would say he was part and parcel of the driving force as well as the executing agency. My lords, as regards the voter registration, in Winnie's lengthy affidavit, she's taken you through the processes, which is confirmed by IEBC, but perhaps not in as much detail as she has. Her evidence goes as follows. Please allow me just 2 minutes. When a voter went to the polling station, hopefully there was this machine to register the voter. But there was a manual writing of the voter's name that went on simultaneously with the fingerprinting and the photograph that was taken. All that is in Winnie's affidavit. The Green Book is actually the manual compilation of all the registration process that took place at the polling station.
Day 2 of the presidential petition hearing was the respondents' day in court, and they did not disappoint. The defense teams argued their cases, accusing Prime Minister Raila Odinga of trying to force a rebuttal of allegations filed by the court leader to nullify the presidential results. And as Samogina reports, Raila is being accused of precipitating a constitutional crisis should his petition sail through.
On the second and last day of hearings at the Supreme Court, Raila Odinga, through lead counsel George Oraro, finalized court submissions saying the electronic voter transmission system by IEBC was designed to collapse and was not accidental. Oraro stated that despite mobile service provider Safaricom raising a red flag on transmission capacity, it was ignored and no test runs were conducted before elections.
The other security which Safaricom asked them to place is, whereas plans have been made to replicate and back up the primary election results data and an alternative site for National Tally Center has been identified, this site has not been adequately prepared nor equipped, and failover procedures have not been defined.
IEBC mounted a rebuttal with an arsenal of its legal minds, challenging the petition blow by blow on all accounts as forwarded by CORD.
A presidential election which attracted 86% voter turnout in a country, and you are considering whether you should set aside or not. The test, I think, that can befit the magnitude and gravity of that decision is 100% test certainty.
The election was not electronic, the voting was not electronic. And it must apply to all the other equipment which was used.
In their defense, IEBC and Isaac Hassan, as the returning officer in the presidential election, claimed the Prime Minister was precipitating a constitutional crisis in his plea engineered to force a rerun. The defense teams argued that by virtue of losing faith in IEBC and its chair, consequently, if granted a re-election, the PM will reject the body from conducting the exercise.
Election petitions are premised on the exercise of a people's democratic right. The general rule all over the world and attitude of the courts is to let the elections stand. And that is what we're urging the court to do.
We have a petitioner who uses clever interpretations to disenfranchise Kenyans just so that he can get a second bite at the cherry.
On the acrimonious voter register, IEBC legal teams dispelled CORE's allegations of inflating figures on the final voter register. IEBC says the increment in the number of registered voters was as a result of a special register to accommodate individuals not registered electronically.
But I'm submitting, my lord, that if there is anybody who's taking us back to the dark days, it is the petitioner.
Extra people vote. Even in England last time they voted. A 16-year-old boy voted, my lord. Because they want to test the system out of habit. It happens everywhere.
Equally, the defense rebuffed CORE's allegations that IEBC co-hosted its server with TNA by hiring Kencol Company as a custodian of its server.
The resource transmission system did not use and was not hosted by Kencol. There was zero linkages.
Early in the day, the Supreme Court summoned LSK Chairman Eric Mutua for defying a cease order on the discussion of the case outside the court. Mutua had criticized the Supreme Court for rejecting Prime Minister Raila Odinga's 900-page affidavit.
Mr. Mutua should be the last person to undermine the authority of this court by issuing prejudicial statements.
The defense submitted that court bears the burden of proof in the petition despite Attorney General's submission that the burden of proof is a responsibility of both the petitioner and the defense. Sam Ogina, KTN.
Now, as the country awaits the Supreme Court ruling on the presidential election petition, the Kenya Human Rights Commission has released a report on their audit of the March 4th election. According to the Commission, the elections had the potential to be positively transformative of the electoral system given the Constitution and reforms taking center stage in the country. However, the Commission laments that Kenyans voted along ethnic lines despite the fact that the Constitution puts in place mechanisms for power sharing and devolution of resources. The Commission also says that politicians successfully managed to mobilize the country along tribal lines and based on the population in their tribal strongholds. Another issue was the cult of personality, which the Commission says continues to thrive 50 years after independence, with politics still revolving around personalities and not issues. Also, the KHRC also highlighted the fact that the qualities of a leader that include integrity and competence were overlooked in terms of election coverage. Also, the Commission commended the media for promoting free and fair elections, but took issue with their reluctance to air issues such as anomalies and electoral malpractices. The report also touched on social media, indicating it was awash with ethnic chauvinism and accusations.